We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. We're at a Sunday night into a Monday morning. We got another week starting out, and we presume there's going to be some interesting shit going on. Of course, George Santos was kicked out of Congress last week, and he's threatening all kinds of outing of people that were his colleagues. You know, from insider trading to tax problems to various types of perversion. I don't doubt any of that stuff is going on in Congress. I'm sure it is. The fact that George Santos is willing to speak up about it, well, that will make it interesting. And whether anybody will believe it or not, well, we'll see. But at this point, since George Santos is out of office, now he can only be one thing: fucking entertaining. Stir some shit from the outside. I'm all for that. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And of course, now the House of Representatives, the Republicans only have a 3-seat advantage, majority. If Kevin McCarthy leaves before Christmas, like we're hearing, then it'll be down to 2. You know, before this is all said and done, the Democrats could have a slim majority in the House with everything that might happen over the next year. But, you know, we'll see what the hell is up. I still have the cold. As you can hear, it's a little better. It's getting better. I'm on the antibiotics and time has gone by, so it's improving. I will still cough from time to time, like right now. But I'll get through it. If I could get through yesterday, I'll get through it today, and we'll talk about some shit. Got some emails. First email, rather appropriate. It's coming from Denise. She says, "Hey, Boomer, I'm a respiratory therapist." Well, how coincidental. I work with patients every day with breathing difficulty. Mucinex works as an expectorant. It helps the lungs by thinning mucus and stimulating a cough. As long as your cough is productive, it's fine. Once your cough is no longer productive, it will continue to make you cough. If you're no longer coughing up anything, try taking a break from it. Denise, I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's hard to say, you know, because when I'm off of it, then I start getting stuffed up again. So I keep taking it. And I'm getting a little tired of taking it. I'm glad things are improving so I can take it less, but it doesn't make you feel that well. I mean, it doesn't make me feel ill, but it makes me feel off, and I don't like that. You know, I'm 63 years old. It don't take much to make me feel off, and I don't need some over-the-counter drug to make it happen. I am glad, though, that I am getting better. At least you can hear my voice. I'm coughing less, but it's still hanging in there. And I've talked to a lot of people who've had this. This seems to be going around a lot. And I've talked to people who've had it for a month, which is just wonderful, isn't it? Imagine having this for a month. That would fucking absolutely suck. Now, on Tuesday, tomorrow, my wife is going into the doctor to get checked out. Her cough and cold isn't as bad as mine, so I don't know what they're going to do necessarily. But I told her that she definitely needed to get it checked out. So Denise, thank you for the input. Send me a note. Let me know what your copay is, and I'll get that taken care of. Oh, I wanted to mention one other thing. Yesterday, I mentioned somebody had sent me a Amazon gift card for $25, and I had no idea who it came from. So I mentioned it on the show, and then I got a note on TikTok from the woman who sent it. Her name is Donna. Now, it made sense after she sent it. I thanked her profusely, told her that's not necessary. And one of the reasons she sent it is because she wanted to buy a T-shirt for me and send it to me. Again, that's not necessary. I don't ask anybody to send me anything. But the reason she wanted to send me the T-shirt is because it said Grandpa Shark do. And I thought that was kind of funny. And now I may even buy that t-shirt. But then I'm thinking I got to buy one for Grandma Shark and Baby Shark so we can be Team Baby Shark. I don't know. But Donna, thank you very much for sending that. I appreciate it immensely. I also heard back from Annie Young Arts, the artist that sent that piece that I showed you yesterday. And I told you, check out Annie Young Arts website. Does some beautiful stuff. And the interesting thing about this woman is she's blind. You can read her whole story on the website, and it's pretty amazing. And I would suggest that you look at it. So Annie Young, thank you very much. Donna, thank you. And don't all you fucks get the idea that you got to send me something. You don't have to send me anything. Moving on. We have another email. Hi, Boomer. I tried this fun and easy party game with my friends at a recent gathering. As aging, educated, music-playing liberals, we aren't exactly a cross-section, but neither is the crowd here. That's a good point. So here goes. Take a few seconds to lock in an age where you would peg Trump's emotional development. As parent, for example, what age does he remind you of? Now, Boomer, please give everyone 5 seconds here to lock in an answer. What the fuck am I supposed to do here? Okay. For us, the overwhelming winner is 12, with 11 as the next nearest. We're not talking a healthy 12. We're talking the kind of 12 where you're considering child counseling and silently admitting to yourself and no one else that you don't like your own offspring. I think that sounds reasonable. Certainly a 12-year-old, but on the dumb end of the scale, because he's not as smart as most 12-year-olds. I wonder what the audience consensus was. Okay, hopefully that was fun. Best Garage Door Jeff. If you want to email me what your thoughts are in terms of you think Donald Trump's mental age is, by all means, send it to me and I'll talk about it next time. But there's no question, at best, he's an adolescent in his own mind, and he's not a smart one. All right, we're continuing on. Yet another email. And this one's a long one. Jesus. I like the long ones, though. Hey, Boomer, a Gen Xer here from Colorado. I've written to you only once before, and it was about your cough, not politics. I've been listening to you every day for about 2 to 3 months now. I call your podcast my copium because you're so incredibly certain about the future being bright. It eases my anxiety and fears right before bed every day, even if I don't agree with you about everything. Well, the important thing is, if you don't agree with me about everything, there's a simple explanation for that. You're fucking wrong. I'm kidding. Not really kidding. I like a good dose of positivity and love the anti-Trump banter and humor. You tell it like it is, and I love that. I'm also a straight shooter, as you will see from this email. I agree with probably 70% of what you say. What the fuck? And I reveal that I'm 52 and never once voted for a Republican, but I'm incredibly frustrated with Dems for various reasons. I know you feel the same. Yeah, that's true. Regarding Trump, I call him the Mango Mussolini, which I admittedly heard on another podcast. I believe it's the most apt nickname for the fascist asshole. I don't know if it's the most appropriate, but it's in the top 5. Real quick about your cough. If the antibiotics aren't working in about a week and your lungs are still filled with phlegm, well, that paints a beautiful picture. You really should ask Doc for some prednisone. It will clear those lungs up right away and you'll be good as new. You're actually not the first to suggest prednisone. And trust me, I don't like being sick. I'm not afraid of doctors. And if this shit doesn't work, I'll be in there asking for heroin if I thought it would work. Now back to politics. I have a few quibbles with you. Oh, you do, huh? And I know you'll have fun counterpoints, countering my points. So let's do this. Please take this as constructive criticism from a like-minded person. This isn't meant to antagonize. Now, whenever somebody says to you, I don't mean to be mean or I don't mean to antagonize, it means just the fucking opposite. But I'm a good-natured guy, so let's get into it. I've not heard you talk about Biden's narrow 2020 win in the Electoral College. While I hate the stupid thing and I hope we can completely eliminate it someday, for now, we're stuck with this I don't know if this is a word, anti-majoritarian system. It probably is a word. I'm just not that bright. Having the Electoral College means the majority doesn't always win. And when the Republicans do win, they do it without the popular vote, since the rural areas received a disproportionate amount of electoral votes, and the blue areas of the country are at a disadvantage, since most of us are living together in heavily populated areas where our votes just don't count as much due to this antiquated racist system. You keep talking about Biden's big win in the popular vote, but the reality is he narrowly won by only 40,000 K across 4 to 5 states. He won by small, sold-out football stadium, is how I picture it. If there had been little less enthusiasm among young voters and many suburban former Republicans who held their noses and voted for Biden, and if COVID hadn't happened, it's very likely Trump would have won in 2020. Now, in 2023, we have new headwinds working against us and some winds at our back too, like the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Well, this is the one thing about this. You will always hear somebody come across with a negative example of how thinly and how barely Biden won. And I disagree with you. I know if you break it down to those things, we're talking about 40,000 votes. But in actuality, he did receive 7 million more votes than Donald Trump. Electorally, as far as I know, that was a landslide. Now, hear me out on this. The only reason I know that's a landslide because Donald Trump won the 2016 election by the same electoral split, and he said it was a landslide. Now, I know things are close, and everybody can find the dark cloud in everything. But to even suggest that this is going to be close, let me put it to you this way. You can worry and wring your hands and clutch your pearls about this election, but I say this a lot, and I'll say it again. Donald Trump got beat in 2020. Joe Biden had 7 million more votes. He won the Electoral College handily. My only question is, if you're worried, what has Donald Trump done since 2020 to gain support, to gain votes? He's done nothing. Everything he's done has lost him support and lost him votes. We can whine and cry about this stuff, but I'm a firm believer in creating your own destiny. All the logic, all the facts tell me that Donald Trump doesn't have a chance to win. And frankly, I don't even think he's going to be the nominee. And people will say, that's crazy. He's got the most votes. Well, think about this. How crazy is this? People will laugh at me when I say, I don't think he's going to be the nominee. He's got too much shit raining down on him. And they will say, oh, no, he's going to be the nominee. I'm not the only one thinking like this. Remember the Koch brothers, the one that's remaining, put all that money behind Nikki Haley? We've got other GOP donors putting big money behind Nikki Haley. Now, the only way Nikki Haley could be the nominee is if Donald Trump somehow drops out. So the Koch brothers, a lot of these big donors, seem to know something or seem to think they know something. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I just have a sense Donald Trump won't even be there. We won't have to worry about Donald Trump. He'd probably be the easiest one to beat, but there is nobody in the Republican Party that can win in 2024. If you think the fear was at high levels in 2020, it's going to be worse now. It's not going to be as close as 2020. It's going to be worse for the Republicans in 2020. Anyway, we continue on. Where am I here? I do realize both are true, but regarding the headwinds, listener Fred from Chicago spoke about a young voter he knows who consumes literally zero news and listens to her dad. She believes Biden is a mass murderer of Palestinians or something ridiculous. I know some of these people too. Some are young and some are my age, in their 50s. They get their news from podcasters like Joe Rogan or worse yet, Jimmy Dore. They are lefties without critical thinking skills who are moving to the right because they're being told Biden is evil, or they're Hispanic and are worried Biden equals Fidel Castro. These people literally rely on fake news, misinformation from TikTok and other sources, which is why I'm glad you're on TikTok. I hope you continue to grow your audience and set them straight, but we have a lot of work to do. My stepson is one of these people. He's a 31-year-old white male who struggles with just about everything in life. He grew up with my values and used to lean left, but because he perceives himself to be the victim of wokeism and what he perceives to be a bad economy, it really isn't, he wants to blame someone for it. And I suspect he will vote Republican rather than accept responsibility for his own problems. Yeah, there's plenty of those people out there. I mean, I've said since Donald Trump was elected president, something very disconcerting was revealed. And that was the epidemic level of stupid we have in this country. There's a lot of it. Uneducated, uninformed, people who don't give a shit. And there's only so much you can do about that. I mean, these are the people that won't feel it until they get bit in the ass. And that's where the Roe v. Wade comes in. When you're looking at younger people, you can talk about the economy, you can talk about all this shit, but the fact of the matter is young people realize this constitutional right is being taken away from them. They're going to have a problem with that. See, that Roe v. Wade thing wasn't around in 2016, and we know what it did in 2022. You think those people forgot about it for 2024? That's going to be the single biggest issue in 2024, in spite of all the crazy shit we've got going on. Number two, I believe it was you and Ed who were talking about the DeSantis-Newsom debate. What I take issue with is that you both said you didn't watch it or only watch clips. You declared Newsom the winner and said he crushed DeSantis. And now there's where you weren't listening. I said I did watch it. I watched all but the last 20 minutes, I think. I did watch it. I didn't watch just clips. Now, Ed, he may have watched just clips, but I watched it because I knew the clips would be kind of one-sided. But I watched at least an hour and 10 minutes of that debate. Newsom wiped the floor with him. It wasn't even close. If you look at all the reports the next day, everybody agrees with me. I told you that he would wipe the floor with him before the debate. And it's not hard to guess that, given the two parties that were involved in this debate. I did watch it. I actually watched and tried to view it through the lens of one of those low information voters I wrote about above. DeSantis actually came across quite well. No, he didn't. He was very prepared. Really, he was prepared. Every time Newsom would say something, he would say, that's not true. That's not true. I beg to differ with you. He looked horrible up there. He absolutely looked horrible. And he's taking a beating for it now. Just yesterday, 3 of his people bailed from his campaign because they feel like it's over. I don't think he was prepared. I think he's awkward. I think he's weird. And I think you're wrong on that. Said I would challenge you to watch the entire thing and try to remain objective as watching clips when they call in a winner. You're making me suspicious here. How you would think but he did a good job there. Please. He hasn't done a good job in any of the debates, let alone this one with Gavin Newsom. It's not his specialty. He's not good at it. He's weird and awkward. I heard many centrists say they believe the debate resulted in a tie, especially among people who really don't know that DeSantis is a fascist. Newsom was actually caught in some lies, which does not help the Democrats. They need to stay above the fray. The Repubs are liars, and when the Dems do it, that only adds fuel to the Fox News, OA, and Newsmax fire. They'll play it on a loop. Look, I've told you before, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I don't like the Republicans now because, well, they're just trying to destroy the country. But should the Democrats become in power, I'm going to be in their shit too, because they got their problems. But the fact of the matter is there are some stupid people that will never learn, never understand. The fact of the matter is the base for Trump or the MAGA fucks is starting to lessen. At best, we've got maybe 25, 27% of the country that believes in MAGA. No matter what numbers you're going with, it's not enough to win an election. Well, people will say, well, he had 74 million people voted for him in 2020. Well, here's the thing you have to understand. Those aren't all MAGA fucks. Those are people who only vote Republican no matter what. Grandpa did it, grandma did it, great-grandpa did it, and that's what they vote. But there have been a lot of people who have stepped aside since Donald Trump's been revealed for the criminal he is. Hell, there's 40 people in Congress that are retiring because they're tired of the crazy shit. I don't know. Don't give Ron DeSantis, put it this way. You can talk anything you want about Ron DeSantis. He's not going to be the nominee. He's just not going to be the nominee. I promise you that. He will not be the nominee. He's bad news. And they know it. And he's gone. That's why they're pouring money into Nikki Haley. That's a desperation move because she can't win. But Ron DeSantis is done. And you talk about how Gavin may have said some things that are untrue. Big surprise, he's a fucking politician. But here's the thing. Ron DeSantis should have never taken that debate. He had absolutely nothing to gain and everything to lose. Gavin Newsom just sucked him into this thing because of the guy's ego. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And what he gained then there is that he proved that he would be a tough guy against Republicans, as opposed to what Democrats have done up to this point. He's not in the mix in 2024. He's setting the stage for 2028. I think Gavin Newsom did the right thing. I think he did a good job. And if anybody can try to tell me that Ron DeSantis won that thing or even tied that thing, I'd love to debate with you because that's absolute bullshit. And I did watch it. Not all of it, but 75% of it. Number 3, I heard you tell someone not to worry about gerrymandering. This was about 2 months ago, I believe. The issue with gerrymandering is that it literally created so many deep blue and deep red congressional districts that there are now only about 17 swing districts in the entire country. So nobody in the U.S. is willing to negotiate solutions anymore. It's literally why we have no solution to the border situation, which then leads to voters blaming Biden for it. Well, when I said don't worry about gerrymandering, you have to understand what I meant by that. Gerrymandering is clearly a problem. But at our current state, in our current situation, with Republicans holding the majority in the House, there's not much we can do about it. Now, there have been some court cases where they've reversed the gerrymandering, but it isn't going to be fixed by 2024. It does no good to worry about it. All we can really do is get a lot of people out there to fucking vote. And then once they get the power, then they can work with the gerrymandering. See, that's the thing. People want to take every problem, put it in their heads, become overwhelmed, and get nothing done. You got to focus on what you can handle one step at a time. The gerrymandering issue is a big issue. We ain't fixing it by 2024. All right, 4. Lastly, I haven't heard you talk about the third-party candidates and their potential to pull votes from Biden like they did pull from Hillary in 2016. I believe there's a higher demand for third parties now, coupled with an increasingly uneducated electorate who will fall for the BS that flows from people like Jill Stein, RFK Jr. Most of these gullible people would likely vote Dem in past years. I realize this is a threat to every single year, but it is much less of a threat in 2020, definitely back in play in 2024. Again, I disagree. First of all, Jill Stein isn't the reason why Hillary Clinton lost in 2020. Jill Stein isn't going to be a factor in 2024. She wasn't a factor in 2020. RFK Jr., you bring this up. You really think that's going to take away votes from the Democrats? Really? I disagree. And so does the Republican Party. They're trying to destroy RFK Jr. because they realize he's going to take votes away from the Republicans. So if RFK Jr. wants to win, I'm cool with that. There's another factor to consider. If Donald Trump doesn't get the nomination, will he try to run as a third party? You bet your ass he will. This is just one of many things that are fucking things up for the Republicans. You want to assume it's going to be bad for the Democrats. I don't see a third party issue in this situation. Cornel West, he's not going to have the money to do it. Joe Manchin with the no labels thing, they don't have the money for it. Jill Stein's never been a factor, and RFK Jr. is more likely to hurt the Republicans. So, no, I'm not worried about it. Again, these are just minor quibbles. Hopefully, you have some fun with them. All the best, Vicky in Colorado. Well, I had fun with them. My blood pressure's up a little bit. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for the questions. It makes it interesting to talk about it. I don't need everybody agreeing with me all the time. But if you disagree with me, I'm going to explain it to you. That's Vicky in Colorado. Thanks very much. Oh, by the way, Lauren Boebert sucks. I just thought I'd bring that up. And she's probably out of a job in 2024 too. All right. The next one says, hi, Mike. I recently read an article about a case here in Iowa. A man trespassed on at least 5 different properties with pride flags. He left anti-gay notes on the properties. The Iowa Supreme Court upheld his conviction, saying that freedom of speech does not protect you from the penalty of trespassing. He was also convicted of a hate crime because he was targeting people flying pride flags and anti-LGBTQIA messaging. This case is a reminder that freedom of speech doesn't allow you to break other laws in the process. Even though it was the Iowa Supreme Court, this gave me some hope that the courts will reject Donnie's claim that everything he did in regards to January 6th was freedom of speech. Well, we know the freedom of speech has some limitations. If it didn't, Donnie wouldn't be being sued for defamation of character and losing. All right, next he says, I'm sure MAGA Mike Johnson wants to try to authorize his full impeachment inquiry as soon as possible. The Republicans only hold like a 3-seat majority now that George Santos is gone. Kevin McCarthy is rumored to be leaving by the end of the year, and I believe it's Bill Johnson is leaving at some point to become the president of a university. Depending on if the Democrats can pick up those seats, the House could be at 218 Republicans, 217 Democrats. The math will never be there for an impeachment or an impeachment inquiry, but it's also not going to get any better. Mike Johnson is hoping that just getting an inquiry started will be enough to hinder Joe Biden in 2024. That's what he thinks. But Republicans have done nothing but fail up to this point. I dare them to take the vote. Just another embarrassment for them. They can't win that. It's not even about how much their majority is. There's a lot of Republicans that see it for what it is. They're in Biden swing districts, and they're not going to do it because they know it's going to hurt them in 2024. He goes on to say, it won't matter. There's nothing a Republican can do to win the presidency, unless maybe Joe Biden dies after it's too late to get another Democrat on the ballot. Well, naturally, they'd have to run President. Excuse me. They'd have to run Kamala Harris. I think she'd do an amazing job, but they haven't showcased her enough. And I'd be worried that people wouldn't be willing to vote for her because they don't know her. Thanks, Eric. Eric is from Iowa. You know, I've said this before. Joe Biden's going to be 82 in 2024. When a man or woman gets to be that age, anything can happen. They can be incapacitated. They can die. None of that would be surprising at that age. All I hope for with Joe Biden is he gets through the election, the inauguration, and then after that, if Kamala has to take over, or whatever happens, the most important thing is that the Democrats have control going into 2024. Then after that, we'll be fine. I got my fingers crossed for Joe Biden. I think he's going pretty strong right now. We're a year away from the election. We just need to get him to that point, get him through the inauguration, get him the presidency, get the Republicans out of the House and the Senate, and then we can sit down and do some more business. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I have at least one other email coming up, so we'll talk about that right after this break. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast, heading into the second half of this Monday podcast. I have one more email. Hello, Boomer. I especially enjoyed and paid attention to your hot take continually failing. What he's saying is I had a video on TikTok that said continually failing, and I'm talking about the Republicans. Not really sure what a hot take is. It's kind of like breaking news to me. A lot of people use it, and I don't really know the definition of it. Is it just when I come on and give my take on something? Is that a hot take? I don't know if it's a hot take, but it's just what I got to say. But the email goes on. They can't win for losing, can they? No, they can't. I really come to understand your reasoning and your logic. You're good. You may need to talk to the woman I just did an email with. Anyway, my take is this on why reasonable Republicans will not shut the MAGA morons down. It's very simple. My New York radar is on, and my experiences as a father, manager, and musician tell me that the reason is the entire party and possibly a couple of Democrats are behaving this way because of guilt and fear. My son and I have daily discussions on this. I would bet my last dollar that the Republicans are sitting on a scandal so bad that if it were to become public, it would totally rock the country to its knees. I think they sold their souls and everything else to keep power and control. Well, that wouldn't seem impossible to believe. Like most really guilty children or criminals, they hint at it all the time, especially Trump. You know, Russia, 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 hint, hint, hint. Mark my words, something is coming. Thanks for what you do, Z-Man. And I don't necessarily think you're wrong about that. We are finding out some pretty horrific things that our government has done. Take George Santos, for example, or some of the other members of Congress that have gotten themselves in trouble. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Even before Donald Trump, I would say our Congress was largely a corrupt, criminal cesspool of people. Now, not all of them, of course, not all of them, but there's enough of it to really taint what's going on in Washington, D.C. and Congress. There are a lot of motherfucking grifters out there, and clearly it's not just Republicans. That's what I've always said. We need to get this dumpster fire out of there, and then we need to go in and start cleaning house on both Democrats and Republicans. You know, people always want to find out, well, how do they get this money? Where is it coming from? What do they have to do for it? I've said before, I think I was talking to Ed about this, we should have a situation where every member of Congress has to lay out every bit of their financial information, how much they have, where they're getting it from, and what they're spending it on, and what they're investing in. I don't think that's a lot to ask, since we have to question their credibility every fucking day. Now, speaking about somebody with no credibility and in some deep trouble, Rudy Giuliani expressed fear on Sunday that he could go to prison for the rest of his life after Representative Dan Goldman suggested the data from Hunter Biden's laptop had been manipulated by the former New York mayor. And again, that's not surprising. They wanted to get Joe Biden bad. They did some fucking crazy shit with that laptop, and even still, they couldn't come up with any evidence from it. On a Sunday radio program, Rudy Giuliani said he deserved praise for exposing the contents of a laptop belonging to President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. Exposing what? Still have yet to see the evidence. You want praise for that? I disagree. Do you think I'm entitled to some credit for being the one who brought out Biden for the first time? Giuliani asked longtime girlfriend and co-host Maria Ryan. Oh, isn't that wonderful? His girlfriend. This guy's 150 years old. He's got a girlfriend. What's it, a mail order bride or some shit? And of course, Ryan agreed because she's getting paid to agree. You deserve a lot of credit, Rudy. They don't, Giuliani complained. They think I deserve to go to prison for the rest of my life for doing it. Well, I think a lot of us think that, Rudy. That's why they went after you, Rudy, because you had information and you were highly credible. Were is the operative word there. You are no longer highly credible. They had to discredit you, so they made up stories about you. I don't know if the stories are made up. I mean, a lot of it's on audio and videotape and text messages and emails. It's hardly made up. Giuliani argued that he had been vindicated, even though a lawsuit from Hunter Biden accused him of hacking and manipulating the laptop contents. He said, I was accused by Biden during the last debate, presidential debate by name, of being a Russian pawn. You are. You remember your two buddies that went to jail, your Russian buddies that helped you work a deal with Russia? That kind of makes you a Russian pawn. And of course, Rudy says, well, it's proven I'm not. Really? Because I didn't see that. I didn't see where you were proven and vindicated. He goes on to say, and then this liar, the newest big liar in the Democratic Party, Dan Goldman from New York, a little rich boy, comes out and calls me a Russian pawn again. Because you are a Russian pawn, Rudy Giuliani. If anybody is, you sure the fuck are. Now, at a House Judiciary Committee hearing last week, Goldman said that there was evidence Giuliani had manipulated the laptop's hard drive. Oh, that's a problem. You have no idea. You know hard drives can be manipulated, Representative Goldman told a witness. Hard drives can be manipulated by Rudy Giuliani or Russia. There is actual evidence of it. But the point is, it's not the same thing. Giuliani is facing charges in Georgia related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election, and he has not been indicted in connection to the laptop as yet. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of shit coming. We're hearing talk of all these other swing states, Arizona, Michigan, Nevada. They're starting some shit up too. There's going to be indictments coming out of there. And we haven't even seen that yet. Over and above all that's going on already. Those fake electors and the people working with those fake electors, like Rudy Giuliani, like Ginny Thomas, they got problems in all kinds of states coming. All right. Now, during a CNN panel discussion on Donald Trump's twin rallies in Iowa on Saturday, former Trump White House official Alyssa Farah Griffin changed the subject from the former president's attacks on President Biden to admit she was stunned by his delivery and lacked sharpness. Oh, you think? All you have to do is watch Donnie, and he's mumbling and going off on tangents. You can't understand a fucking word he says. Now, speaking with CNN State of the Union host Dana Bash, Farrah Griffin agreed that Trump often uses projections to flip his own faults onto others, but then turned to his demeanor as he spoke to the crowd. She said, after watching a clip of the former president in Iowa, she told the host, "It's kind of remarkable. I've been watching the clips from Trump's visit to Iowa, and I'm stunned, having spent a lot of time with him in 2020 and years before. He's slowing down. There's a lack of sharpness in what he's saying and lack of kind of clarity," she elaborated. There's a clip where he basically says he's going to overturn Obamacare, but also says that he'll fix it. Complete inconsistencies. That's, of course, after he beats Barack Obama in the election for the second time. Yeah, if there's any cognizant issues, it's not Joe Biden. I mean, is Joe Biden slowing down from what he was 20 years ago? Yeah, I'm sure he fucking is. But at least he can stay on topic. At least he's cognizant. At least it's understandable what he's saying. Donald Trump is like one of those dolls where you used to pull the string and they talk, but you never knew what they were going to fucking say. That's Donald Trump. All right, Miami. This is interesting. A former American diplomat who served as U.S. ambassador to Bolivia has been arrested in a long-running FBI counterintelligence investigation, accused of secretly serving as an agent of Cuba's government. That came from the Associated Press. Manuel Roca, 73, was arrested in Miami on Friday on a criminal complaint, and more details about the case are expected to be made public at a court appearance Monday. So this is going to be interesting to see what's going on. And it goes back to what I've said before. There's a lot of bad shit going on in our government. You know, you've got a president who's handing out top secret documents. God knows who that's helping. We got corruption. We've got grifting, money laundering, all kinds of shit going on in our government. And this one more example. One of the people said the Justice Department accuses Roca of working to promote the Cuban government's interest. Federal law requires people doing the political bidding for a foreign government or entity inside the U.S. to register with the Justice Department, which in recent years has stepped up its criminal enforcement of illicit foreign lobbying. And we've got some people like Michael Flynn who got convicted of it, and then, of course, pardoned by Donald Trump. The Justice Department declined to comment. It was not immediately clear if Roca had a lawyer, and a law firm where he previously worked said it was not representing him. His wife hung up when she was contacted by the AP. Roca's 25-year diplomatic career was spent under both Democratic and Republican administration, much of it in Latin America during the Cold War, a period of sometimes heavy-handed U.S. political and military policies. His diplomatic postings included a stint at the U.S. Interest Section in Cuba during a time when U.S. lacked full diplomatic relations with Fidel Castro's communist government. Now, he was born in Colombia. Roca was raised in a working-class home in New York City and went on to obtain a succession of liberal arts degrees from Yale, Harvard, and Georgetown before joining the Foreign Services in 1981. He was the top U.S. diplomat in Argentina between 1997 and 2000 as a decade-long currency stabilizing program backed by Washington was unraveling under the weight of huge foreign debt and stagnant growth, triggering a political crisis that would see the South America country cycle through 5 presidents in 2 weeks. He was in Bolivia as ambassador. He intervened in directly into the 2002 presidential race, warning weeks ahead of the vote that the U.S. would cut off assistance to poor South American country if they were to elect former coca grower Evo Morales. I want to remind the Bolivian electorate that if they vote for those who want Bolivia to return to exporting cocaine, that will seriously jeopardize any future aid to Bolivia from the United States. I guess that makes sense. If you're exporting cocaine, we're probably not going to fucking back you. We're probably not going to give you money. Anyway, as much as he's been a uh, trusted person within in this international work, he's now going to jail because it looks like he decided to go to the well in Cuba and get a taste for himself. Okay, we were talking about Ron DeSantis before and his prospects for 2024. I will tell you again, he will not be the nominee by any stretch of the imagination. And I think the people that are working for him are starting to see the writing on the wall. 3 senior members of a super PAC backing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis left the group on Saturday, the latest sign of instability within the 2024 hopeless political operation, just 6 weeks before the Iowa Republican caucuses. Now, Kristen Davison parted ways with Never Back Down just after she took over leading the group following the departure of CEO Chris Jankowski less than 2 weeks ago. Now they're moving people out of this group like they were moving presidents in Bolivia. Also, leaving Saturday were Communications Director Aaron Perrine and Director of Operations Matt Palmisano, according to 2 people familiar with the matter who spoke on condition of anonymity. Now, Never Back Down's internal operations. Davison was the first departure, was first reported by Politico. Longtime DeSantis ally Scott Wagner, who had been a member of the group's board, was named interim CEO and board chairman. Now, Never Back Down has really held the bulk of DeSantis' presidential organizing duties and advertising load since he announced his candidacy in May. Now, this shakeup of its leadership comes as DeSantis is undergoing a lot of problems with his campaign, and that debate didn't help him at all. He's not really putting any pressure on Donald Trump, and he's losing ground to Nikki Haley. I really think that things are going to go south for Ron DeSantis. He's just a weird, awkward guy. And you just can't hang with the regular politicians. I mean, not even Gavin Newsom, any of the other Republican candidates. Nikki Haley would walk all over him. Chris Christie will kick his ass. He's just not doing well. Now, among some of those close to the situation, the rash of departures is seen as an aggressive step by DeSantis loyalists to reassert control over Never Back Down. The super PAC is seeded with more than 80 million from DeSantis political accounts this spring. But once he became a formal candidate, DeSantis and his campaign were legally prohibited from having any direct control over the group or the money, which is a problem because Ronnie likes to have control of the money, not unlike his buddy, Donnie Trump. Now, instead, the group has been run by Jeff Rowe, a powerhouse Republican political consultant with a pre-existing relationship to DeSantis before this year, but with close ties to Texas Senator Ted Cruz and Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, among a larger group of major Republican clients. Well, if he's tied to Ted Cruz and Glenn Youngkin, you know he's a solid fucking guy, don't you? Never Back Down staff and still is packed with employees directly from Rowe's firm, Axiom Strategies. They included Perrine, Matt Wolking, and Jessica Szymanski, who were apparently still with the group, as were other senior staff as of Saturday. Now, it's unclear late Saturday if Rowe remained part of the Never Back Down. Rowe did not return several messages seeking comment on the status. So it ain't looking good for Ron DeSantis. You can talk some shit. You can say, oh my God, I'm worried about him. but there's no need to worry about him. Ron is done. He can't come back from this. He's way behind Donald Trump. Nikki Haley's gaining ground. And every time he goes in front of a camera, he looks weird and awkward, and people aren't feeling it. The only reason Ron DeSantis was in this race from the beginning, because people started getting nervous about Donald Trump and all the baggage he's carrying. They decided, well, we got to find another boy to back us or to front us in the Republican Party. They saw Ron DeSantis, a fairly young guy, albeit short, and he was talking like Donald Trump. So they didn't think about it. They didn't investigate. They didn't vet him. They just grabbed onto the first motherfucker that sounded like Donald Trump. They figured that's all they needed. But when they latched onto him, they didn't know there's going to be a bunch of problems. Like he's weird, he's geeky, he's awkward. There's something off about him. He's a fascist. He's a racist. He's a misogynist. All those little things come to light. Now, to me, he's just the typical Republican, but it's not working with the people. The people don't like the motherfucker. He's not somebody that people like, and he's ruining his home state. So what do you campaign on with this motherfucker? He's not a good candidate. He's gone. There's another guy that's a obnoxious politician. His name is Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Ed and I were talking about this guy. This guy comes off as, somebody described him as Mr. Haney from Green Acres, this old boy country guy, when in fact he's been a Rhodes Scholar. He's went to school in Oxford. It's just all a fake ploy just to try to give him some credibility. And I don't know how it would give him credibility, but he is probably one of the worst people in the Senate right now with his Trump humping beliefs, his ridiculousness in hearings. He's just a dope, and he constantly gets embarrassed, but like all the other Republicans, he just fucking keeps going. But he's getting a little heat at home too. A columnist for the home state newspaper of John Kennedy, Senator John Kennedy, is going after the senator, saying he should know better than causing an international incident. Now, the Louisiana paper, The Advocate, attacked the state's U.S. senator in an op-ed Sunday by longtime columnist Stephanie Grace, calling him a smart man who likes to say stupid things. Grace explained that he loves hurling insults at appointees for federal office instead of questioning the individuals about their history he finds so objectionable. He called one Soviet-born law professor comrade, implying he was a communist by birth. He attacks legislation to dog urine and attacks colleagues, saying it must suck to be that dumb. Clearly, Kennedy is just fine with sacrificing his senatorial dignity at the altar of owning libs, wrote Grace. Most recently, Kennedy was triggered when a public health researcher schooled the lawmaker that Louisiana, Mississippi, and Missouri all have more firearm deaths than Chicago, which Republicans like to attack as a crime-invested, Democratic-run city. No disrespect, Doc, but that sounds like a lot of word salad to me, Kennedy said to Megan Rainey, who serves as the dean of Yale's School of Public Health. She just gave him facts that dispute exactly what he said, prove he was wrong. Yeah, it just sounds like word salad to me. Kind of sounds like, I know you are, but what am I to me? Grace explained that every time Kennedy begins his sentence with no disrespect, it's about to be followed with disrespect. It's similar to a preemptive way of saying, bless your heart, to excuse the attack at the start, not after. Now, Grace brings up the humiliation to the state, saying that Kennedy crossed another line in the Senate, attacking the president as a weenie. Yeah, he called the president a weenie. Grace fears Kennedy is getting worse. Such insults from people like Kennedy undermine the American position, particularly at a crucial time in hostage negotiations for those kidnapped by Hamas. After all, Kennedy has never been a world leader or a military leader, nor has he gone beyond his tough talk. Kennedy's attack on President Joe Biden came during the confusion about who attacked the hospital in Gaza. Kennedy said at the time that the entire ordeal was Biden's fault. How is that Biden's fault? They want to try to blame this on Biden, and I'll tell you why they're trying to blame these things on Biden. Because when this comes to an end, and Biden is pivotal in bringing this peace, he is going to get a lot of positivity. He's going to get a lot of credit, and they know that, and they know that will lend to their demise. So they're trying to make him look bad now. Remember, that's all Republicans do. They just try to smear their opponents. They don't deal with facts or proof or truth or law or anything like that. It's about trying to smear them. They're anticipating Joe coming out of this looking good. So they want to tear him down now, at least try. And unfortunately, their attempts are pitiful. Kennedy whined, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. America has a president who is not a defense hawk. Kennedy whined. It's a curious claim as he is one of the many lawmakers opposed to spending for the war against Ukraine on Russia. He said that because of Biden's action in Ukraine, Afghanistan, and Iran, enemies think they can do whatever they want without fear of the U.S. or how they will respond. Kennedy then turned around and used his soundbite in a fundraising email to supporters. Grace walked through the posh education Kennedy had that would presumably help him to know better. And he is pretty well educated. Like I say, Oxford, Rhodes Scholar, all of those things. That's the unfortunate thing. And this is what I said about our Congress, especially the House of Representatives. We have a lot of questionable people in there. Do they have this country's best interest in mind? No, of course they don't. We see that they don't. Somebody like George Santos or John Kennedy or Kevin McCarthy or Mike Johnson. None of these people really have the best interest of the country and the best interest of the people they represent. They just don't. It's a way for them to make money, gain power, get fame, or whatever it is they fucking want. And therein lies the biggest problem we have in our politics today. And this problem existed well before Donald Trump. It's just that what Donald Trump is doing is taking it a step farther and putting our country at risk. All of this corruption and bullshit has been going on for decades. You can go back many years and find people who have been caught and prosecuted and stuff here and there. But you have to understand, we're seeing it pretty widespread in Congress right now. We're hearing about a lot of things and a lot of people doing some shady shit. This isn't new. This isn't new at all. This shit was going on well before Donald Trump. It's just now it's becoming more exposed because we have a bigger microscope on it. You know, when people try to equivocate this problem with the Republicans and say, well, the Democrats are just as bad. Well, if we're talking about at this moment in time, no, the Democrats aren't nearly as bad as the Republicans. That's why we're focused on the Republicans. But if you want me to say the Democrats have big issues and are a problem, I will agree with you. There's all kinds of problems there. And it starts with how they've handled the Republicans since the Republicans brought in Donald Trump. They've handled it poorly. Their messaging is horrible. And they're part and parcel to why we're struggling with this now. Had they known how to fight, had they pushed back, had they not turned the other cheek, we would probably not be in this position right now. We had a lot of things working against us leading up to this moment in time. We had a media that divided this country by giving everybody different information. We had Republicans who were absolute thugs and criminals, and they did whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And then we had Democrats who just let them do it, didn't know what it was to fight back. Well, now they're starting to fight back, but I got to be honest with you. I take exception with the Democrats. It's nice that you're fighting back now, but had you done your job in the fucking first place, we wouldn't be in this kind of trouble. I think to a large degree, we've got people in Congress that are worried about lining their own pockets, gaining their own power. And if they can help the public in order to get more votes down the road, they might do that, but they're really not in it for us or the country. And that's the problem. There is no motivation to work for us. The motivation is to give money to wealthy people, cut big deals, ask for big favors so they make money. This is the problem with our government. We've got tainted, fallible humans running the show. And then we give them some kind of elite status, like they're special or they're better or they're royalty. Fact of the matter is, they're just fucking servants. But they're not treated that way by us, by the media, by anything. And I think that's one of the things that needs to change. They're doing service to this country by being representatives and senators. They are servants. They are serving us, and they should be treated as such. Let's not give them all these elite pluses in life. Let's not give them eternal pensions and eternal health care. See, that's the thing. You know, George Santos is a perfect example. He only wanted to get in there to get the pension and the health care. He didn't give a shit about being a senator or a member of the House. It's what they can get. And there's a lot more in the House of Representatives and the Senate than you possibly imagine. Like I say, there are some good ones. I'm not going to argue that fact. But a good majority of those folks don't have the best interest of the country and all of us in mind. If we can get the Republicans eradicated and get this dumpster fire put out, it's not over. We've got a lot of digging we've got to do to get out of this hole. And then once we get out of this hole, we got to start taking some names and kicking some asses after the fact, both with the Democrats and the Republicans. And I see us doing that. We become, they've awoken a sleeping giant. A country that's been largely apathetic up to this point is now seeing all the crimes, criminality, and all the injustices that are going on in Washington, D.C. And we don't like it. It's been real easy to hide it under the radar and just say, oh, that never happened. Well, we know exactly what's happened, and we see it every day, and people are pissed off about it. I think apathy may still be an issue in this country, but not as big an issue as it was, because there's a lot of people like me and you and everybody else that maybe never really paid attention much to politics, but now we've seen what we've seen, and we can't unsee it, and we can't help but fight against it. So, you know, people will talk to me about being positive about things as if I'm just conjuring this up in my head and just being positive for the sake of being positive. The fact of the matter is I look at the situation. I look at the facts. I look at all this shit and I analyze it and see how I think it's going to come out. I play it out in my head. And when you look at the facts, no way Republicans win in 2024. Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, not going to be a factor. They're just not going to be a factor. No matter how you package it, no matter what you tell me to suggest, well, we could do this or we could do that. You can't compare 2016 or 2020 to 2024. There is absolutely no fucking comparison. We know a lot more. We've seen a lot more. People are more fearful about what's going on. Don't even tell me what's going on in 2020 because it doesn't matter. What's going on in 2024 will be a whole new thing, and it's not a good thing for the Republican Party. I'm not being positive just because I want to be positive. I'm saying it because I actually believe it, and I base it on the facts and logic I use with those facts. All right. We are going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.